It is often said that an army marches on its stomach. Whilst we can debate whether or not that is fundamentally true, it also raises an intriguing question. What does a podcast march on? The answer to this question that frankly no one is asking, well, it's simple. It marches on and in its merchandise. Tonight, we make good on a long threatened promise as the podcast quartermaster Liam Telfer joins me to unveil a new line of apparel that will put your lace-clad friends to shame. We talk about why we've chosen to embark on this sartorial adventure, the joys of modelling merch in a balmy Waterloo dawn, and how you can help us to grow the show while enjoying some quality products and solving that knotty problem of what on earth you can buy the Napoleonicist in your life this Christmas. This is Marching and Merching the Napoleonic Wars. Up next on the Napoleonic Wars pod. Hello and welcome back to the Napoleonic Wars pod, where we are doing something bordering on the sacrilegious. We are talking about tat, but we do not have the bow with us. Instead, I am joined by the Napoleonic Wars pod's dishiest model of our merchandise. The estimable quartermaster Liam Telfer is in the house. How are you doing, mate? How do you feel about ousting Dr. Memory as Tat Master in Chief?
Well, wherever, first of all, thanks, Zack. I'm well. Wherever the boat is in the world currently, and whichever time zone he's in, being slightly behind us, I'm sure he's just sat up, bolt upright, and a shiver has gone down his spine. There's someone else talking about Napoleonic themed tat. His ears will be glowing, I'm sure.
See, I'm just looking out the window and all of the birds have suddenly started looking to the west, which I'm pretty sure is because they've heard a scream in a pitch otherwise inaudible to human hearing, that has originated somewhere around the University of Connecticut. Probably. I'm sure that's a thing.
Yeah, but the good news is I know that the bow has already put an order in for some of this tat. So I say tat, some of our excellent merchandise. So I'm sure that'll form part of compensation on him missing out.
I'm sure it will. You are quite right to pull me up on calling it tat. I mean, first of all, calling somebody the tat master in chief is very dangerous. You have to pronounce that very carefully in order to not say something unfortunate that would require a much more PG rating on the show. But there is an irony in the fact that I'll be honest, when we first placed the orders for the like the demos that we had done, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I put it in the washing machine. I was like, I'm gonna just put this on the washing machine in the washing machine on its own in case the dye runs, because you never know what you're getting when you go to an external provider, right? But it's really decent quality. Colors stayed in it as I would hope it would. The logo's looking grand. It's warm. It's decent stuff that you found.
Yeah. Again, I was the same. You never know how these things are going to turn out. And actually, I think less so the color running, but more so the, putting it in the wash with all of the fabulously printed logos on and taking out a very plain t-shirt with no logos was sort of my main concern. But I've worn them to do some quite hardy things, not least march around the Waterloo battlefield with your good self. And repeated washes, it seems to be holding up really well. Now, I'm sure in time, like any of these things, they will wear. But so far, so good. So you're right. Yeah, I'm really pleased with how they've come out.
So, shall we talk about the why of why we've done this before we? Basically, I'm trying to keep everybody on tenterhooks because they'll want to know what all of like. Look, okay, I know it's not like the biggest news ever to be dropped in the history of Napoleonic history, but like you've got to try and create some suspense, people. So work with me here. Shall we talk about the why of this? Because I mean, Delusions of Grandeur, much the Napoleonic Wars podcast is marketing merchandise to its small band of merry listeners. Like Girl Delusions is something that I can well imagine some of our listeners are quietly pondering it to themselves. But you say that, people, there are a few rationales behind it. I won't lie. One of them is obviously financial. Yes, we do need to make money on this show for a variety of reasons. Fundamentally, one reason. The one reason is we are going big in terms of our plans. I have just been in the midst of a conversation about commissioning bespoke pieces of music for our documentary series, which I can tell you will cost many, many pounds, but will fundamentally be worth it. We've got a filming trip to Portugal in April. There's a possible filming trip to France in the summer. And I've got to actually pay you guys for everything you do on the show now, because amazingly enough, we don't take an early 19th century attitude to labor and employment rights on this podcast. So, I mean, excuse me whilst I play the world's smallest violin, but all of this does cost fundamentally. And this is a way of us producing something tangible. And I think it is important that we have something tangible that people can get their hands on physically. We talk a lot about the perks that we offer through Patreon, whether it's the bonus episodes or the meetups or the course or the book club or the meet the author experience and so on. But sometimes people want something that they can physically hold. And I think this is a nice way of kind of tackling both those areas at once. For people who are going to need various things, I'm not going to spoil what we've got for you, but for people who need various items of clothing in their life, like, here's a nice opportunity for you to wear something a little bit different, something that has just that little bit of a spark of a conversation behind it. And also you get to support what we're doing. So if you're one of those folks who's kind of gone, look, I don't want to do the Patreon thing of signing up for £3 a month, thank you very much. And believe me, folks, I do understand that. I genuinely do. Sure, we push it hard, but I always understand that, things are difficult. Now you've got the opportunity, should you want to buy a piece of clothing, and you're going to need clothes anyway, because it's a general thing that you have to wear stuff when you go out the door. Like, there are certain social expectations that you don't go out in the buff 100% of the time. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been getting it all wrong all the way through my life. But on the basis that you will need clothes, and you're listening to this because you like Napoleonic history and might want to support us, like, I'm hoping this Venn diagram ends up becoming something a bit more like a circle.
I think it is really important to labour the point, and I know you enjoy labouring a point.
But me labour a point.
But there is money to be. I say money to be made. We're not going to be all of a sudden buying monocles and open top Rolls Royces,
aren't we? I thought we were making a fat thousand on every piece of clothing that we sold.
Sadly not. This is not your life-changing financial moment. But all of the money that we make on the products that we're going to sell will go back into creating new things for the channel. And it is difficult to do, without a little bit of financial backing. These filming trips cost money, either in fuel or in flights, depending on where we're going. So I think it's really important that you, as the fans, as the listeners, know that we're not just going to start throwing money around. It's all going to go back in to paying guests, paying for fees, expanding the channel, expanding the podcast reach. And also, I think something we've spoken about for a while, to be fair, in various guises of, should we, shouldn't we, should you, shouldn't you, before the sort of team expanded as to what it is now. I think it's just nice for fans to show off that they are fans. I'm a big sports fan, and I like to show off which team I support. And I think that's really, really cool to be able to have a piece of like you said, tangible proof that you are a Napoleonicist. Um, and there is a certain element of marketing to that as well. You bump into someone in the street and they say, hey, that's a cool item of clothing you're wearing. Where did you get that from? What's that all about? Which I've actually had people ask me, at least on at least a couple of occasions. Yeah, so it works. And it's just a really great way for people, like you say, to be able to show their support in a different way.
Yeah, it does amuse me sometimes. Side ranting coming. I know that's a shocking revelation on this show. Stop rolling your eyes, man. Um, it's my podcast, and I'll be a diva if I want to. Is something we should frankly stick on the side of a mug at this point. But it does amuse me when occasionally you get people who really have no clue about how this show operates and the money that's gone into it, and they're like, you should regard this as an investment in your future, and you should be paying for this out of your own pocket. And I'm like, mate, like, who do you think paid for the drone? Who do you think paid for the trip to Belgium, paid for the camera and all the associated things, paid for the editing software? And I know people, boohoo, poor me, yes, pity me, but
Give us money.
yes, fundamentally, like when you look at how much you've invested into something and you realize that you have probably put 4K of your money into the show, like there does come a point where you have to think about how you balance the books and think about the future. And this is the beauty of people supporting us, and people have been insanely generous, don't get me wrong. They have made the continuation of this show possible because it enables to sort of square the debts, and then I can sort of invest more and kind of get those bills balanced out in the long run. But we are focusing a lot on the future and kind of future proofing the show, and so things like this enable us to build that pool of finances so that we can then start thinking about, right, what's next? How do we plan for the future? Where do we go big? What's feasible? Could I have imagined spending many hundreds on music 12 months ago? Not a hope in hell. But now I can, which enables me to support indie creators as a fellow indie creator, which I really like. But also, it means that we can create things that work on a much more intimate, much more personal level with the stuff that we're producing, which is all to the better of your experience. And sure, stuff still goes out for free. I think that's always the big thing that people forget, is that 99% of all of the stuff we produce just is a donation to the wider community. So there are some cool things that you can buy that will help us to continue doing that. And so if you're up for that, you might want to avail yourself.
Should we give our fantastic listeners the rundown of what we've got currently for sale?
This would be smart because I literally have our shop up in front of. Yeah, we have a shop now. Like we are Telfer and White,
Messrs
Telfer and White, procurers of the finest Napoleonic Wars pod merchandise since 2024. Esquire, because the Esquire is important and necessary. Yeah, go on. Because I've been trying to avoid referring to specific things because I don't want to spoil your thunder. This is your creation, and I think all of us would agree you've done a belter of a job on this.
Well, I hope so, and I would, and I know we'll talk about it again later, but I would caveat that this isn't this list isn't complete. This is what we've got so far. So if there is something that you would like the Napoleonic Wars podcast logo on, we can do it, but we'll go into that later. So first of all, where to find us? It is Napoleonic-wars-podcast.printify.me, and that is our Printify, which is a print-on-demand service, Napoleonic Wars podcast shop. And that's where you'll be able to find all of our current items. And as we add to that, there'll be updates in future episodes and newsletters and things like that. So at the moment, we have a couple of mugs, which are very finely adorned with some phrases that you'll be more than familiar with. We have a now Napoleonicist, now's your time. I believe that was actually a quote from the Duke of Wellington, wasn't it, Zach?
18th of June, 1815 at 19:30 hours, probably.
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 Probably. Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a brew. Which again, I think that was Bonaparte, wasn't it?
Yeah, Napoleon Bonaparte, 1805. I would hazard a guess, 3rd of December.
Mm,
Couldn't quote you a time, sadly.
probably.
Probably
And then, so what we have in terms of
that
apparel,
thing. Yeah,
yeah, clothing, um,
stuff you can wear.
yeah, stuff you can wear. So we have the very cool new Napoleonic Wars podcast logo in a variety of colors, which are blue, yellow, white, and black.
And just to emphasize, that's the logo that comes in those
Yes,
colors because
because you can have that logo on a hoodie and or a t-shirt in its various forms in very many colors. Pretty much any color you can think of, it is available. What we haven't done is make the black logo available on a black t-shirt, for example,
why
because
not?
it's very camouflaged. But however, if there is someone out there that wants that, we will, I will endeavor to make that for you. And similar to, the white logo on white clothing, but
This is
nothing is.
madness. Why on earth not, man?
Well, like I said, if that's what the people want, that's what the people shall have. And like I say, these are available in a very, very wide variety of colors on hoodies and t-shirts. Now, for the important part when you are buying these things, hold your horses before you all rush to the store and crash it at once. You will notice when you get there that each item has a location in asterisks. For example, North America only and the UK and Europe only. It's really important that you pick the one that is closest to your geographical location. Now, I'm aware that there isn't anything for Asia or Australasia or the Antarctic for our Antarctican listeners. That's a word, right?
We've had a couple, actually.
That's
Genuinely.
incredible. Yeah. But what I can do is, if you let us know via the show comments, we can create a place that you can buy your t-shirts for the Antarctic. Basically, what it means is, all it actually means is that if you are in the UK and you buy a North America only t-shirt, you will receive said t-shirt. However, you will pay a much higher shipping charge because it'll be shipped from the States, and it will take a lot longer, and vice versa. So we hope that makes sense. It's really important that if you're in the UK and Europe, pick a UK and Europe one, and if you're in North America, pick a North America only one.
Hopefully, that's not too taxing for our listeners. I mean, I'm sometimes I look at the comments that crop up on TikTok shorts that I do, or some of our YouTube videos, and I do think, somebody's clearly not been lent the family brain cell this morning before commenting. But I don't think for our regular listeners that will be an issue. Like, it should hopefully be quite clear to you folks that we've separated out the different regions in order to save you money. Like, if you just want to waste your money on postage, fire away. We won't see any of it. So you are literally burning your own money. But if that's what you want to do, if you want to invest in the postal service, then you do you. The one thing that we should say is, you might look at the prices and go, I'm a stingy individual, so I can understand why people do that. But bear in mind that what happens is that the shop basically says, this is how much we are going to charge you to produce this thing. And then we have to turn around and go, okay, what kind of margin are we going to have on top? So the bulk of our costs are actually the costs that we will be charged in order to facilitate printing and shipping. So it's not as though we're trying to rinse you. We're not, as Liam says, we're not in the business of buying monocles off the back of this. Although I do think you would rock a monocle really quite well. Like,
I think I would.
Yeah, you've got the cheekbones for it.
I think I would. Like Zach says, it's really important that that you know that we're not rinsing you. These most of the costs go to Printify and their suppliers. The reason that we've gone down the print on demand service for now, at least, is it helps us keep the costs down. We don't have a bank account overflowing to buy and hold stock and have that liability on our books. So if we use someone like Printify, a print on demand service, they basically carry all of the liability, and all we get is a very, very small slice of that, which, like we said, gets reinvested back into the show.
I mean, think about it this way, folks. We don't know how many of you are going to order what. So, bearing in mind that we offer these in varying colors and much more besides, like we could have 5 light blue hoodies printed with the yellow logo and then find that nobody wants that. What everybody wants is the yellow logo on a navy blue hoodie instead. And so, we've got all of these hoodies in varying sizes just sitting around, frankly, in Liam's shed gathering dust. And we're like, well, what did we spend the money on that for? So, sure, you might actually know of more efficient systems, but what we've done is looked at varying options. We've particularly looked at a provider that we think we can trust, because obviously the trust element has to be a core part of this. We need to know you are going to get your products. And we're about as confident as we can be that this is going to go hopefully smoothly.
Mm,
Probably.
indeed, probably. There's lots of probablys in there. Now moving just on, I'd love to sort of cover the thing that I find actually very exciting about all of these products is how customizable and personalizable. I'm making up words today. I
That is
do
a word.
apologize.
It's
I've
a
just come
thing.
off I've just come off night shift. I'm not really sure what day it is, and this might be a dream. Um, so yes, if there is a particular item such as a
Mate, can
t-shirt
I
or a
just
hood,
say, sorry to interrupt you, but can I just say, if producing this podcast is a dream, you seriously need better dreams. Like,
nightmares are dreams too.
well, this is Halloween season, right?
um, so yes, if you want a particular piece of merchandise, and you want it with a particular logo or with your own name or nickname or numbers or any kind of customization that you can think of, we can do that for you. All you need to do is contact us through the podcast email, which is napwarspod@gmail.com, and we can start that. There will be a small surcharge for the customization because it's something that we have to go in and create. And obviously, if we're going to do that, we're going to sort of have a bit of back and forth with you as a paying customer to make sure you're happy before we send that off. So that's just paying for that time. And yeah, and also as well as the hoodies and the t-shirts and the mugs, like I said earlier, we can customize. Printify have a huge swathe of providers in terms of whether it be clothing or water bottles, stationery, things for your pets, things for your kids, things for your home. We can pretty much put the logo on anything. So if you have a burning desire to have a water bottle for the gym, for example, with our logo on and your name on, that is something we can do. So please don't hesitate to pop us an email and we can sort of start that dialogue together.
And if you want us to grandiosely give you a rank like secretary at home, um, then we can add that to the front of your name if you want to. I will neither confirm nor deny whether I have gone and bought the entire production team hoodies and t-shirts with our respective nicknames on. Um, to be honest, folks, if you listen to this show often enough, you know me. You know that that's absolutely what I've gone and done. But a good example of that was actually that I was buying somebody else a Christmas present and said to her, "Look, would this kind of work as a hoodie? What kind of size will we be looking at for you?" And she said, I don't wear hoodies. Like I wear sweatshirts, but not hoodies. So she's getting a sweatshirt rather than a hoodie. Like we can make this happen. Liam kind of does some sort of magic thing. I know I'm the one who looks like Harry Potter, and so I should do the sort of waving of the. No, let's not talk about waving of wands. But yeah, like Liam's magic with this stuff.
We can, like I said, we can move logos, we can change sizes. It is super flexible. just work with us and we'll work with you, and we can, before you know it, your dog will be cutting around with a napwarspod snood on.
And what we will insist upon is renaming your dog with a suitable Napoleonic-esque name. That is part of the service that we provide. I have a running thing with my mates that listeners won't know about until now, whereby whenever I see a dog on a battlefield, I instantly christen that dog after one of the commanders who fought there. So I have met Pakenhams. I have met. Um, why have I started off on this? Where have I gone with this?
We were talking about snoods for dogs, and now you're naming dogs on the battlefield. I'm sure you named
Okay.
one in. Was it in Saint Armand that you named one that was at the gate, and the owner was stood there at the same time, and you were like,
Yeah.
"Oop."
Yeah. Yeah. I got some very
um,
weird. I get very weird looks from dog owners. Um, I mean, that's just generally. Never
mm,
mind on a battlefield. But they're just better. Dogs are just better. Any we should stop this. Like this is bad podcasting,
yeah,
even by my standards. But yes. So folks, you've got hoodies. Well, you've got decide on what you want our logo on and what personalization what you want. Get in touch with us and we'll see what we can do. I have had people tell me that they want a secretary at home t-shirt and that they want certain things on mugs. And so we are having conversations about how we produce said things. So get in touch, napwarspod at gmail.com if you've got specific inquiries. Otherwise, Napoleonic wars podcast.printify.me. We will put obviously the link in the description, but that's not all. Wait, there's more, he says in his best. Is it Stephen Butterfield? Um, okay, Liam hasn't got a clue what the hell I'm on about there. There's a meme. Never mind. We'll move on. But there is more. We have stickers. Oh, yes. Come on, Liam. Spill the beans on the stickers.
so these aren't part of the Printify line, hence why they are not in the pop-up store, but they are extremely hard wearing sort of outdoor stickers. You know, you can put them on mugs, you can put them on water bottles. I've actually got one on my truck, and they are, they're really hardy and really good quality stickers. We've got them with the large logo, not the wreath logo, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with by now. The large logo in a blue on white background, a black on white background, and a grey on black background, if I remember correctly. So yes, we have those for sale, and Zach is going to tell you now how you can buy them.
So, what I'm going to do, folks, is direct you to our Patreon feed. No, I'm not about to force you to sign up in order to then buy some stickers off of us. But what we will do is we will stick a post that's accessible to the entirety of the public on that Patreon feed. Now, while you're there, if you want to sign up to get updates, like please do. You're very welcome. But the point is that there will be details of the PayPal link that you can use. We will set a price that will be clearly stated in the post. And then by submitting a payment through that PayPal, we will then have an email address through which we can contact you to confirm your order. We will then ask you for details about address, quite which variant you wanted, etc., all of those things. Or, of course, you can just email us direct, napwarspod at gmail.com. If you do send through a PayPal payment and we find that we cannot contact you through that email address, we will return that payment if we can't contact you within 14 days. So we're not going to keep your money. We're not swindlers like that. Hopefully you realize that we're at least vaguely honest on this show. Perhaps not honest with ourselves about our levels of delusion, but we are at least honest when it comes to financial matters. So that's, again, we will put a link to that in the description to this show. And any queries, we have an email address. Please do get in contact. The other thing I'm going to plug is we have a mailing list. So now Josh has done a fantastic job of making this happen, but now we have the we send out a series of kind of dispatches, essentially. Josh has taken to sort of naming them after different months of the French Revolution. It's all really quite inventive. And what it does is it gives you updates on new episodes that have gone out, but also some of the other perks that we're offering to patrons. So actually what it enables you to do is have a little look and see if there's something that particularly tickles your fancy and whether or not you might want to look at a one-off subscription or whatever. So if you want all of the latest news so that you never miss an episode, but also if you're actually a patron listening to this and wanting a kind of centralized source of information on everything that we're doing, that's the way to do it. So again, get in contact with us and we will make that happen for you. And the last thing I'm going to say, just because we're plugging everything, so why the hell not, is please do follow us on all of our social media channels because it helps us to spread the word. And if you haven't left a 5-star review, as I'm always saying at the end of every episode, please do because it helps us in terms of connecting with people. Liam, any last words as Quartermaster in Chief of TAT?
Once you have all obviously rushed out and bought said apparel, we'd love to see you wearing it on social media. I think one of the things that the listeners always talk about is how strong this community feels. You know, the strong bond between the Napoleonicists. So wearing the logo can only help bring us closer together. So yeah, once you've got your hoodie on, bang a picture on your X feed, your Instagram feed, tag us in it. We'll pick it up and we can share it with the rest of the community.
And that tag should be at napwarspod with the same hand on all the social channels. Liam, Tat Master in Chief, Quartermaster, it's always a joy to podcast with you, my friend. Folks, you have been listening to the Napoleonic Wars pod. We will be back very soon. Folks, as the festive season approaches, consider whether you'd be willing to do any of these things to spread the Napoleonic cheer. Love the show? Never want to miss the latest news? Then sign up to our newsletter by contacting us at napwarspod@gmail.com and get the regular Napoleonic bulletins direct to your inbox. Looking for a novel Christmas gift for the Napoleonicist in your life? Check out our merch via the link in the description in order to support our work while giving your loved ones something distinctive this winter. If you aren't in a position where you can dig into your pockets, then believe me, we totally get it. But that doesn't mean that you can't thank us for the episodes that you've enjoyed in a different way. All podcast platforms have ways for you to leave your reviews, so just spare us 2 minutes and leave a review wherever you listen to us. It makes a world of difference in boosting our international ranking and widening our reach. Much love to all our Patreon supporters who are enjoying a rejuvenated and revitalized offering of perks on Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the Napoleonic Wars pod to find out how you can join a buzzing community of like-minded Napoleonic nerds who are enjoying things like courses, socials, a book club, green room access to recordings, early releases, exclusive episodes, and much more besides. Their support is empowering us to triple our output and develop new exciting documentary channels. So if you want to be kept entertained on a daily basis when it comes to Napoleonic nerdery, prices start from just £2 a month. And you can, if you can spare the cost of a cup of coffee each month to support us, it would mean a huge amount. Shout outs to our patrons who, at the time of recording in late October, are in the mentioned in dispatches tier: Rob Griffith, Brendan Teeling, Beatrice de Graaf, Lynn Dawson, Jamie Kingston, Jim Deary, Josh Keeney, Colin Fieldhouse, Stephen Colson, Jim Getz, Stephen Gillen, Hugh Brennan, Alistair Campbell-Grieve, Andy Meakin, Mark Anscombe, Rob Coughlin, Bruins Girl, Noah Fink, Mark Trowbridge, Miles Reedy, Nick Overland, Graham Goodwin, Chris Pramus, Anthony Gumbau, Anonymous American, Martin Pisani, James Fluick, Natasha Hobday, Rod Schwager, Chris Kimball, Gary Dennis, Ted Andrews, Richard Anderson, Arthur Forgy, Sam Moore, Wyatt Pollock, Carol Dixon Smith, Roland Shark, Giovanni, Jean-Baptiste Van Merlen, Darla Vincent, Brendan Hogan, Peter Findlay, Jeff Maple, Ian Harding, Indiana Fats, and Joe Ayres. The Admirals, Mark Chestnut, John Haynes, Mike Guest, Rachel Stark, Mark Duckers, David Priest, David Maxwell, Graham Callister, Sean Sullivan, Stephen Ashworth, Dan Hazelwood, Kate Walcombe, Clemens Beman, Charles McKay, Reto the Sci-Fi Fan, Tim Day, Jason Morn, Tim Pritchard, and the enigmatically named Zed. The Chiefs of Staff, that's Adam Coslin, the Marshals, Ryan Diamond and JC Kaiser, the Legion de Scholars, Dan Hazelwood and Bob Burnham, and in the Crown Yourself tier, Emperor of the First French Empire, Todd Campbell, and the Duke of Wellington, Laird Campbell. We'll be back very soon, but until then, this has been the Napoleonic Wars Pod. On behalf of myself, Liam, Luke, and Josh, take care of yourselves, folks, stay well, and as always, thank you for listening.